Hey, welcome back, everybody, to another Wednesday Wisdom segment on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll be right back with this week's Wednesday Wisdom guest. But first, as always, we're going to give a shout out to our sponsors. Now, don't hit that fast forward button. These are all companies that I used as an athletic director. They're all great companies. You should be using them too. So take 3 minutes, listen to our shout outs, then listen to our interview, then go and visit these sponsors. I'm telling you, you're going to be very glad you did. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program: teachers, student athletes, how about parents, coaches, you name it. And this may surprise you. The information that's going to come back, it's going to be overwhelmingly positive because that's how people feel. You're also going to get to hear from those squeaky wheel parents, but you'll get a chance to address their concerns before they turn into something big. Having all that positive data is also important, especially when you're visiting with your principal or your school board, or maybe your superintendent. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. It's athleticsurveys.com. We also want to say thanks to Hometown. Hometown is changing the game with their suite of solutions for things like digital ticketing. They're still the number one platform for that. How about athletic website construction, fee-free fundraising, and a lot more. Whether you're an AD, a head coach, or a school administrator, Hometown makes it easy for you and your school to save time, to raise more money, and to bring your community together. To get started, just go to hometown.com. That's hometown.com. We also want to say thanks to Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. My assistant AD, along with thousands of others, got his master's through the Ohio program, and it was a great experience. He also completed 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at the same time at no extra charge. To find out more, just go to the Ohio University website and check out their online masters in athletic administration. We want to say thanks to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards for all the teams, for all the different events, or show off your school's Hall of Fame, go to Vital Signs Wall of Fame and take a look at their interactive touchscreen video consoles. It's also a great way to showcase your school's accomplishments and brag about your achievements. Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Don't forget to mention the podcast, vitalsignswalloffame.com. We'd like to thank our friends at Gipper. Go to Gipper.com and let their team show you how to create world-class marketing content for your school's social media channel. Whether it's a small post to celebrate a big win or an entire newsletter that's going to showcase all the great things that your athletic department does in the community, the team at Gipper will have you up and running in no time. It's professional graphic design made easy. Go to Gipper.com for more information. And don't forget to mention the podcast. We want to say thanks to Home Campus. Home Campus is a platform you're going to use every single day, whether it's scheduling, rosters, results. For me, the athletic eligibility and clearance platform alone is the gold standard. Go to homecampus.com to find out all the great things they can do for you and your program. That's homecampus.com. We also want to say thanks to our friends at Snap Raise. Have you ever spent weeks and weeks with a fundraiser and been disappointed in the results? Those days are gone. Go to snapraise.com. It's hands down the best online fundraiser out there. We used it at our school with great success, and so will you. Go to snapraise.com. You can check out all their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, you just found it, and it's Snap Raise. We'd like to thank Huddle for their support of the podcast. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school. And our coaches, all of our coaches, just love the tools that Huddle provided, and so will you. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users, and turn your school into a Huddle school. And we'd like to thank Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and you can schedule a live web demo to see their products in action. You've heard me say before, it's probably the best purchase I ever made as an athletic director. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Check out all of their great products today. That's sidelineinteractive.com. And don't forget to mention the podcast. Welcome back, everybody, to another segment of Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD podcast. We have one of our most prolific Wednesday Wisdom voices back with us, Amy Elliott. Regular listeners will recognize that name. Amy's a longtime AD, also a certified master athletic administrator at Kentucky Country Day School. Does a great job with their teams. This is not a first, but it's a rarity. We're actually recording this the day before you are listening to it. We're recording this on May 27th. So, Amy, it's the end of school. It's wrap ups. What's going on at Kentucky Country Day right now?
Yeah, thanks for having me again, of course. And it's a crazy time. We actually finished school Friday. It was our last day of classes. Graduation was Saturday. And I was just debriefing with you a little bit before this about the craziness of the end of the year, and kind of wanted to go over some of the things that I'm doing and would love to get, input from other people, but it's just hectic. There's no other way around it. It's interesting because I would think the more years I would do this, the easier it become. And that's just not the case. I feel like it's always a crazy time. Different things pop up, or different teams are doing well, or we're hosting different regions for different sports. And so all those things just kind of compile on making May crazy. So some of the things that I'm, working with, and I just came in the office today to kind of get a fresh start on, since our last day of class was Friday, was things like uniforms. Trying to find the best method with my coaches for collecting uniforms for the spring season. I still have my track and field and tennis. They're still playing, but for whether that be our varsity or our middle school teams, I've actually recommended, and it's not the most, I would say, kind way of doing it, but for our teams to have the coaches tell the team, like, hey, bring both your uniforms when we're in the playoffs. And if this happens to be our last game, we're going to throw all those uniforms in this trash bag. And I was like, I told the coaches, I'm like, bring those trash bags to me. I'm happy to throw that in the laundry room upstairs. That's way easier than me trying to track down, 7 to 8 uniforms. So we've tried that method. It is just so difficult because the end of the year for the parents and for the kids is such a difficult time. So if we don't get those uniforms right away or within the end of the school period, it's just really difficult to track those down. And yes, we can charge the families, and sometimes we do, but really the uniform is more important than the money, because sometimes you can't recreate or reorder that same uniform. So we're really just down, and we got to wait 4 years. We do a 4-year rotation to make sure that we have enough uniforms, hopefully for the next 3 years, that we'll have that for whatever team is upcoming. So that's one thing I'm working on right now. Helping collect all those uniforms, making sure we have them in, reaching out to parents and kids. Another thing that's just been really crazy is we do end of season awards for all our, like, we do one in the fall, we do one in the winter. So for the spring, we do 3 awards for our school. We do most improved, coaches award, and then what we call the board award, which is like the best player in terms of performance and leadership and dedication and building the program. So trying to get those award winners from my coaches when they're still in season, because we do that on the last day of school. That's always a challenge. Then making sure I get those ordered in time so we actually have them for the ceremony. And then in addition to that, they're trying to plan their banquets. And I don't know how that works for other teams, but in our fall and winter, each of our teams has a banquet. And they can have it at our school, they can have it at someone's house, they could have it at a restaurant, they could go to a country club. They pretty much decide on what they want to do, and the parents will pay for whatever, they'll pay individually for whatever the cost is and split that. But that's pretty difficult as well, because it's hard finding a date to have a banquet when these kids have graduation or cum laude dinners or, AP exams. So May is just tough. It's been challenging, and I've tried to do my best in terms of writing down in May, these are the things that we've got to get done, and trying to make myself a timeline. But every year I feel like it's just, run and gun until the last thing gets taken care of. And it always works out. But those things are just really tough. May is hard. And I'm assuming that's for other schools, but I'd love, what did you do? Or do you have any insight on some of those topics of end of the year collection for uniforms and awards and all those great things?
Oh, wow, you covered a lot. This is like a 6 week series that we're gonna have to do. I guess for uniforms, you're absolutely right. It's one of the most annoying, tasks that we have as ADs. And the coaches, they're usually pretty good, but they're
Yeah.
never gonna be as on it as you and I are. Okay.
Yeah.
There's always, 12 other things on their list, but having that system in place that you mentioned, okay, this is our last game. We know we're not going to the playoffs, or you know, uh, the district meet, in
Mhm.
track or sports that go from in Florida, it's district, regional, and then state.
Yep.
Some of the kids aren't going to go past district, so we're going to collect your uniforms, and it's part of our season. We love you, we respect you, but
Yeah.
give me those stinking shorts.
Yeah.
Uh, but having that plan and communicating it to the coaches, making sure the coaches communicate it to the kids, and the parents, all that stuff. The last thing we want, as you said, is to charge the parents. The
Yeah.
second to the last thing is some parent dropping off, one set of, you know, tennis or track or softball gear, and you're just going, okay, what the heck is this? In the middle of June that you have to launder. So, um,
Yes.
and storage,
Mhm.
collecting it after that trash bag, after you wash it, where do you put it? Is there an athletic director in all of America that has adequate, I'm not going to say more than enough storage, but has adequate storage for all the uniforms? And I don't know, is this a problem for you? This
Yep.
was one of my pet peeves. The coaches, and pick your favorite sport, that they had their home jersey, they had their home set, they had their away set, they had, a special, let's say it's a white out or whatever the heck it was. But oh no, now we have to have a camo uniform. And I just said, no, okay, if you want to go wear camo, go hunting. But I guess that's my 2 cents on uniforms. Did I help at all or just muddy the waters?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think, just we're trying to get to that where it doesn't seem, I guess, cruel to tell the kid, yeah, like we need this uniform back right after this game, and make that more of the standard. And another thing that I just thought about was our seniors have like projects that they do for a week and a half. So they're not even on campus for the last 2 weeks of school. So those kids are even more difficult to get their uniforms because they're not coming into school. They're doing like internships for 2 weeks. It's just tough, and I've tried different things. And like you said, some coaches are way better than others, and for us, especially our middle school coaches, we just struggle with because a lot of them are off campus coaches. And,
Mhm.
when they're done, they think they're done. And that's tough because we're still kind of picking up the pieces. But I will say, in the renovations we made about 4 years ago, I just really fought like tooth and nail to get a space for our uniforms. And I don't know how many hundreds of hours I spent for the first, I would say at least 2 summers, that I was when I was became the athletic director, of going through just, because we had closets and people had them at their houses and their cars. And that was one thing I'm like, this has got to be, we have to have them in one place so we can organize them. I know what we have, I know what to order, things like that. It was a long, arduous process. So now what's wonderful is I have a pretty good space. It's not amazing, but it's tight, but it works. I mean, I hung everything up. I have little, kind of just the racks that roll. And um, I even have like an inventory spreadsheet. So I made up this Excel document, which is crazy, but took pictures of the uniforms, put down all the sizes and all the numbers. And I've asked the coaches to try to keep up with that as much as we can. When we get new uniforms, kind of put that on the document. So that way we know what we have and what we don't have. And that's a work in progress, obviously, because it's hard enough collecting the uniforms. So getting that spreadsheet, totally up to date is difficult, but it's like now in the summer where I can actually spend time on that and say, okay,
Right.
or if I have an intern or if I have a kid that needs some service hours and say, hey, can you go through these uniforms with me, check off this stuff or help me upload a picture. Um, but it was a huge process. So that uniform inventory, undertaking, organizing, it was a lot. It was a lot. But now they're all technically in one space. My football is in a different space and theirs is pretty tight as well, but everybody's together except for football. And it is helpful. It helps the helpful knowing, you know, just kind of keeping tabs on them. Because when we went through the renovations, what was crazy is I was going through, we had to demolish everything over here. So we went through closets and found uniforms from like 1980s. Seriously, you know what I mean? Like, which is kind of cool. And I kept one of each of them because I'd love
Right.
to make like a t-shirt quilt or something or do something in a retro day. But I mean, the things that we found and had no idea that they were there for years, was it just boggled my mind, and how expensive uniforms are, which I know, it's crazy. So that was a big goal of mine, was to get that all settled and together. So I feel really good about it. But now it's just, collecting them each year and trying to keep up with that, and making sure that we're, keeping good care of the uniforms. They're expensive and they're hard to get. And like I said, the hardest part is a lot of times if I ordered them 2 years ago, I can't even get that uniform
Right.
replacement, right? I mean,
Right.
getting money from a parent to replace the uniform, it's okay, but it probably won't even be half of what the cost would be to replace it, because they're so much more expensive doing the one-offs as opposed to ordering in
Mm.
bulk.
Well, for our listeners, if you have any great inventory
Yeah.
suggestions, send them to me. We'll do this at the end of the show. Send them to Amy. Amy,
Yes.
what's your contact information? And listeners, you need to reach out to Amy anyway because she's a tremendous resource. But Amy, what's the best way that they can get in touch with you?
Yeah, email is great. It's my name. It's amy.elliott@kcd.org.
Okay. Now, you mentioned also the end of year awards and all of that, and how you do it at Kentucky Country Day. My school, I was at where I was at before I retired, was the McClay School in Tallahassee, and I think we were very similar. We're K through 12, independent school. Um, we did things much differently, and it's not a right, wrong, good or bad. It's just different.
Mhm.
Um, and I brought this to the McClay School because they had done things kind of your way, the Kentucky Country Day way before. And I just didn't come in with a big, broad sweep of the hand. I talked to our coaches; they were open to the idea, and I think they're still doing it the same way. Anyway, we I said we're getting rid of the B word. There's no more banquets. We had a couple of programs, you can probably guess which ones they were, that were doing the country club route and
Yeah.
charging, 40, $50 a plate,
Yeah.
as I would say, to hear our coaches say nice things about their kids. And I said, we're not going to do that. These are the school, the athletic department. These are our teams. These are our kids. It's going to be our awards. And so we had an awards program. We're a private school, so we could ask our dining hall, hey, I want some lemonade, want some soft drinks, want some cookies,
Cookies.
but
Yep.
it's not a meal, okay? And our chef, I'm sure you guys have a chef too, would just
Yes.
go over the top and bring in all these things. But anyway, we did three a year, one for each season, and these were
Okay.
athletic department programs. We did one for the varsity sports on one night, fall, winter, and spring, and then we did a separate one for our middle school teams, fall,
Hmm.
winter, or spring.
Okay.
Each event was about 1 hour, maybe an hour and 15 minutes total time. Um, we would invite the parents and the student athletes. The coaches knew about it. It was in our gym or our big auditorium. Um, the first thing we did, and we invited every parent whose kid was going to get something.
Hmm.
And we said, your child's going to be receiving an award. We didn't say what it was.
Yeah.
Um, and the first thing we did at all of these, middle school and high school, was our scholar athletes. We came up with a semi arbitrary standard. And again, we're like your school. Kids are smart, so it had to be
Hmm.
high. That made them a scholar athlete. And there was a ton of kids. I would say we might do 70 or 80 kids at each one of these events. And I would just read their names off. My assistant
Yeah.
AD had a medallion. It cost like maybe $2. Uh, and as the kid came down, we put the medallion on their neck. They'd all line up. It was the very first thing we did. Parents loved it. And that was, again, many of those kids were the ones getting the big awards later on. Then, and I told our coaches this, okay, you have three awards. Every team was the same.
Hmm.
You have a most valuable player that's based on talent. You have what we called our coaches award, which was supposedly based on leadership, like a coach on the field. It can be a
Yeah.
talented kid, but it can't be a knucklehead. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And then we called it, again, our mascot was the Marauders. So this was the
Mhm.
Marauder Award, and this was character. Again, it could be a tough kid, um, but it better not be a knucklehead. So
Yeah.
we had the opportunity to give a major award, same status as the MVP,
Hmm.
to a kid that might not be that athletically
Best player.
gifted
Yeah.
kid.
Mhm.
And the coach would give maybe a 60-second summary. We had a lot of fun. We won district, whatever we did. And then they would present those awards. And we just go right down the line, team to team to team to team. For the high school ones, we did JV and varsity because we had JV. So that might have gone an hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah.
With very, very few exceptions, in all my years at McClay, we only had two coaches that went rogue and started doing this and started doing that. And they believe it, they heard from me afterwards. And We did the same thing for middle school. It went great. Parents loved it. The coaches actually loved it. And then we allowed our teams to have a postseason get together with just their team, but it was going to be at somebody's house. Parents were going to host it. Maybe there's a pool, whatever. But
Yeah.
I
So
said there's
fun to
no
put together.
awards, there's no jackets, there's no bags, there's nothing. I said if you need to tell your parents that are in charge of that, we're not doing that. That's not how we roll. And I would have to have some conversations with parents about that. Why are you
Yeah.
penalizing our team? For the most
Yeah.
part, it all went well. So again, it's not right, wrong, good or bad. It's just that's how we chose to do it.
Yeah, no, I mean, and it's some of those things that you're trying to adapt from what's been a tradition. And I even reached out to a couple of our families as well. So we have another small issue, like we have a fax. Do you guys have fax account or fax management, where basically you can charge families for fees, like team fees, or they do it for field trip fees and whatnot. Well, for the fall and the winter, when we have a banquet, we can say, hey, these 10 families attended. It's an easy spreadsheet. You charge them $20 and right, and then it goes to the account and we pay it out of the account. Well, in this spring, I've had a lot of issues with some parents this year. Our business office kind of shuts down like May 10th because they're trying to finish everything up and process it before June, before like the fiscal year end. Anyway, so we couldn't do that way of collecting money. And I mean, the parents lost it. I was like, you could Venmo, you could write a check. I even did like a GoFan link. I'm like, you can do a GoFan link and pay for tickets. But so I said to them, and this is something that I will talk with even new head of school coming in. And I said, one of my biggest issues is that because people do such different things for banquets. Some of them, like I said, are in the cafeteria. Some of them go to a country club. Some of them go outside. Some of them have a pizza party and some have a catered meal.
Right.
Like, because it is so different, it's very difficult for, me to be able to get a hold of these things because you guys all want your own things. And I said, I'm going to talk to the headmaster next year of about, basically exactly what you're saying is making this more streamlined where everyone will have it either at the school. Do you mean whether it's you have a meal or cookies or whatever, but it's going to be at the school, and it's going to be run by our dining service. And that's it. And of course, I don't know if you know this, but I've already heard word from different families like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die on the hill, to make
I,
sure we still have the banquets at the country clubs. And So, anyways, it's hard because I've been a coach where I did the country club banquet ones, and I've done ones where they've been more chill. And the country club ones, yeah, I mean, we would spend as coaches hours and hours. It was, I mean, it was like a performance, and it was awesome, but it's a lot. You know what I mean? And then I've had just as much fun of ones where we've just gone to the cafeteria and had a pizza party. So it's something that I'm working on as an AD and trying to figure out what works best for our kids in our school. Trying to keep some of the traditions, but also trying to streamline it because it is difficult. How come this team gets to go to the LCC, this, country club, and this banquet, this person has to go, outside in the courtyard. So that's hard as an AD to manage.
Yeah. And again, I don't know how it is in your state, but this is really taken off in Florida, and it's due to a very good friend of mine. His name's John Scromolo. You can Google that, Sgromolo. He's the athletic director at St. John Country Day School here in Florida. At his previous school, he was a county AD for a lot of high schools. Now he's at his own school. He did this end of the year award show is like the ESPYs. It's a
Well, I think,
multimedia thing. It is incredible, and we've had I'm going to say a dozen or more athletic directors here in Florida. They've taken his formula with his permission. He
yeah.
shares it, and they've done the same thing. And so you can, as an AD, do some really cool things that
Mhm.
can maybe soften the blow to
Yeah.
that parent. And everybody listening knows the parent that I'm talking about. That's their baby, that country club event. But
Mhm.
get them involved. Say, hey, this is something that we're going to be doing. I want your help on this, and maybe you can soften that blow a little bit.
Yeah, I think I actually, now that you said it, met him at that AD retreat last summer, and I think he told me all about it and said it was absolutely amazing. Because I had asked some ADs, I'm like, "What do you do for banquets?" Because it's one thing to always get up different opinions on. And yeah, it was amazing. I need to follow up with him. It
Yeah,
seemed very very cool, and he said it
yeah,
went great.
that's John Scromolo, S G
There we go.
R O M O L O, St. John Country Day. I think he's actually put it up on YouTube, so maybe Google that.
Okay,
And it's the coolest thing in the
like the
world.
SPs. No, that is cool.
Yeah. If I was
Yeah,
still an AD, I'd be doing it because it's
that way.
that cool and it's not that hard, not that expensive to do.
Yeah.
Anyway, Amy, appreciate as always everything you do. Amy's maybe not as active as she could be on social media, but occasionally she posts really cool stuff. But she is a tremendous resource. If you want to reach out to her, just add her to your network. One more time, Amy, what's the best way they can get a hold of you?
Sure. It's my name. It's Amy.Elliott. So AMY.ELLIOTT. And it's at KCD.org. Kentucky Country Day. So KCD.org.
Well, all the best as the summer unfolds and those inventory adventures begin. And we'll definitely look forward to getting you back on the podcast and seeing you at the national conference when it's down
Absolutely.
in Tampa this year.
Florida, I know. Finally, it's a
Yeah.
warm place. Well,
Uh,
thank you, Jake, for having me. Appreciate it.
oh, absolutely. All the best. We want to say thanks to our listeners. As always, we upload the Zoom recordings of every interview to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We do Wednesday Wisdom just about every week and just about every day. We try to share stories and best practices. So join us again on the next episode of the Educational AD Podcast. Boy, Amy Elliott, great resource. Speaking of great resources, our sponsors. So please go and visit these sponsors, talk to them. I used them at my school. You should be using them too. Hometown, go to hometown.com, Ohio University and their online master's program. Home Campus, you'll find them at homecampus.com. Gipper, that's gipper.com. Sideline Interactive, that's sidelineinteractive.com. Vital Signs Wall of Fame, vitalsignswalloffame.com. Snap Raise, of course, that's snapraise.com. Huddle, huddle.com. And athletic surveys, you'll find them at athleticsurveys.com. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time on the Educational AD Podcast.